he had an issue with Bruiser Brody, and Frank is he was a really good friend and somebody that I miss. And tragically, we lost him way too early. And I mean, I had actually wrestled against him. I'd been in tag situations where I was his partner, and he was one of the true legends and icons in our business. That, like I say, we just lost him too early. And I heard the story that in Florida, Luger was coming along and was really green, and I never did ask Frank for an explanation of exactly the details of what happened. I just heard that Luger was in a cage match with Frank, and of course you're restricted in a cage match in that, if a guy's inexperienced like Luger was, you can't roll out on the floor and get your second wind, and it just gives you one more piece to play with. And now he's inside a cage, and my understanding was that Frank got very impatient with him, and I can understand that too, being around Lex. And I have all kinds of patience. Frank didn't, and I guess took him to task. And he had to leave Florida. And so Eddie Graham, knowing that Lex should have a great future in the business, notwithstanding the incident with Frank, he had the body, he had everything, and though he is really green, and unfortunately they built up, accelerated a program where he was against Frank Goodish, Bruiser Brody, and it was in a cage match, and again, Brody was somebody who didn't have a lot of patience, and he just. I wish I was there. I would really fully understand it. But knowing Frank, knowing the players, I almost could see what was happening without being there. And Brody just lost it. And whether he got frustrated because Luger did some things that an experienced guy wouldn't do, because a lot of times, a guy like Frank would be leading the match, and if a guy like Luger did something impromptu that didn't fit with the story that Brody was trying to sell, that could be very frustrating, because a guy like Brody would say, oh God, now I got to start all over. And of course Luger had no idea what was going on, and I get Brody lost his patience, didn't last too long, and he started, I'm not saying that he took liberties and deliberately tried to hurt another guy, but he just, you could take somebody like that's inexperienced and slap him around just out of frustration, not making it right. But, a guy like Frank that was a top guy in the business, and he's looking at a guy like Luger that had a great physique and was being given the opportunity to be in the ring with Brody, which was going to immediately put him at a much higher level in the ring than his experience would indicate that he should be. And just, and I can't think of other examples, but I've seen things like that happen. And it got so bad that Brody manhandled Luger, and Luger couldn't roll out of the ring because it was a cage match. And finally, Luger got so frustrated that he actually got up to the top turnbuckle, climbed over the top, went down the cage, and went back to the dressing room, grabbed his clothes, never even changed, and was gone. And boy, I almost like could be a fly on the wall and see that happening, knowing Goodish and knowing Luger.